Hi, I'm Rebecca Landis with Corvallis Holding Farmers Markets. We're here at the site of the third of four workshops here at the Honey Brine Catering and Market in Albany, Oregon. And the first of our presenters is Lamplight Creatives, Allison Lamplaw. Uh, can we cease talking so I can introduce our speaker? Sorry. Um, this is Allison Lamplaw.
Lamplugh?
Lamplugh.
Yes.
Okay. Of Lamplight Creatives, and this is a relatively new venture, but Allison is no stranger to this area. She's been working at LBCC before this, right?
I was.
Okay. Her company offers total solutions for branding, marketing, and promotional needs. It's a full-service creative agency, and she says that she pours her passion, creativity, and talent into your next project. But today she's going to show you how to do some simple projects yourself. And tomorrow, a couple of us are already signed up for her longer presentation at the Foundry Collective in Corvallis. And I'm going to get out of the way now.
Thank you, Rebecca. And I'll give everybody a little bit more information about the tomorrow happenings at the end. So thank you for the introduction. What I wanted to talk with you about today is the idea of you being able to be hands-on in creating custom graphics for your business, for your venture, whatever it is that you're working on. The program, the software that we're going to be talking about is eventually at the end of this is Canva. And Canva is a graphic design tool designed for non-graphic designers. So it is a very easy drag and drop elements kind of program. So it really makes not having to learn a bunch of things and being able to use the software right away. But before we start about the software, I wanted to talk about a couple of things to keep in mind when you start creating your own graphics for your business. And we're talking about things that you can use on social media. You can make headers for websites. You can make anything for your blog. You can use Etsy store. You can create things. I mean, really just we're talking about using a graphic flyer, brochure, whatever to make. So I wanted to start off by talking a little bit about color and making sure that when you are conscious about colors that you are choosing for designs when you do start creating, making sure that you're using it the right way at the right time for the right audience and the right purpose. Yes. It is. Sorry, thank you for that. So yes, and I will talk a little bit about some more options that you can get, paid options at the very end, but it is free to use to begin with. All you need is an email address, literally, to sign up. So just a little bit of a fun fact, when we're talking about colors, a third of the world's top 100 brands actually use the color blue in their logo. And that is actually part of really what the psychology of color tells us that we should be using. When we talk about doing mass surveys about how colors make people feel, react, and respond, there's a difference between how males and females respond to color. So men generally don't like purple, orange, or brown. They generally are attracted to blue, green, and black. Women, on the other hand, often don't like gray, orange, or brown, but they are attracted to blue, green, and purple. So if you look at both of those things and you're talking about a brand that you're trying to reach everybody, then your earth tones are a really good tone to use to attract people's eyes. If you notice, both blue and green show up as preferred colors for males and females. The same can't be said for orange and brown, might I note. In this area, a lot we see orange because of the beavers, of course, right? So we have a little bit of a unique usage of orange, but generally speaking, it's not a preferred color. So the psychology of color. So what is color actually telling us that somebody may actually do or respond to? These are trending colors for 2020. When they look at the colors that people are using on websites and in graphics they're designing, these are very popular colors. And so what are these colors going to make somebody feel or do? Blue often is calmness, serenity, peace, tranquil. You'll notice that blue is often, we mentioned, is used in a lot of logos, but it's also for educational institutions. LBCC, for example, just down the road, they use blue, and that can be said the same for a lot of education. And that's because it gives someone calmness when generally in education, you're pretty anxious about how you're going to get through everything. Yellow is often a warning or a caution color, We see it in road signs, obviously, all the time, slippery when wet signs, but it also is a fun, friendly, and playful color, and that seems odd to some people that you can be cautious and warning at the same time that you're being playful and fun. But really, when it comes to the color of psychology, your body is reacting with a heightened awareness when they see the color yellow. So it's similar to being warned or to having fun. Your body is reacting the same way, and that's how that color yellow can go both ways. Green is really refreshing. It's natural, it's health, it's fortune. It also is used to represent envy quite often. So I like to throw in some pros and some cons. But generally speaking, if you're talking about kind of a natural product, which I assume a lot of you in here are promoting, greens are going to be a really popular color in things that you're designing to kind of relay that to your customers. Orange is haste, it's impulse, it's action, competition, confidence. Again, we mentioned the Beavers, but there's a lot of sports teams that actually use the color orange, and this is one of the reasons for that. Black is usually a very luxurious value, elegance, sophistication, and power. It reminds me of a couple years ago, I was talking to a lady who was born and raised in Israel, and we were talking about societal stereotypes. And she said, well, anybody in America that is any importance, they drive a black vehicle. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. Why do you say that? Oh, thank you. Sorry. There we go. And I said, why did you say that? And she said, well, if you think about it, when politicians or celebrities or people that are in the upper echelon come and visit other countries, they're often dropped off in black limousines and black Escalades and black vehicles. So a lot of people see black as a very luxurious, a kind of expensive color, and you'll notice that in websites for things like Lamborghini or Citizens Watch, which is kind of a higher end watch. They use all blacks on their website. So it's definitely, it tells you something about the product. Red, generally exciting, aggressive, passion, love, strength. It's a very strong color. I always caution people when they use red in any sort of graphic, it can be a really good thing, and we'll see something here in a moment about it, but it also is a stop color to a lot of us, right? Anybody who drives is aware that when you see a red sign on the road, that means you're going to stop. So it interacts with people differently. Some people see it as a very loving color, and some people see it as a stop color. So I would use it however you tend for it to appear. So the best call to action colors, we're talking about making somebody do the thing that you want them to do in whatever graphic that you're promoting, whether you want them to call you or you want them to click somewhere or you want them to go to your website, you want them to buy a ticket, whatever the situation is. The top 5 colors for call to action are green, which is again refreshing, red, which is again power, yellow is excitement, blue means you're trusted, and orange is impulsive. So a lot of times when you visit websites, you'll see a big orange banner at the top that tells you about some sort of flash sale. That's because it's an impulse buy. That's what they're promoting, is somebody to buy now. So when you start designing things, there are when you start designing any sort of material, there's different things that you want to keep in mind that you can use your space for. The top 4 qualities that people use to describe why they are loyal to a brand is cost, quality, experience, and consistency. And that means consistency in the messaging and the materials that they're seeing coming from a brand. So there's a couple things that you want to keep in mind. And I always recommend people to pay a lot of attention to white space. A lot of times I notice that people just want to shove as much stuff into whatever it is that they're making so that they can get as much information in it as possible. But what that does is creates confusion with the user's eyes or the person who's interacting with it, and they don't know where to look. So white space is really your friend when you're designing something. It's also known as negative space in design, where you don't have things. Positive space is where you do have things. And so it really draws your eye, white space, to whatever it is that you want somebody to do, the call to action. Isolating a button that says, click here to sign up or click here to learn more. Isolating that button away from color, surrounded by white space, will get more clicks than if you put it in with other colors. And then again, less is more. You definitely want to make sure that your message is received. The top website in the world, does anyone want to guess what that might be? It has Yes, almost no color whatsoever. And if you actually notice the Google Word, they use 4 of the 5 top call to action colors in their Google Word. So they have definitely paid attention to what gets people to look and respond to. The tones and your fonts definitely increase your user experience. One of the things that I really try to make sure that everybody keeps in mind when you're making a graphic is that you want to make something that will be visually pleasing to the masses, almost everybody. Tones using a really dark background, as I have examples here, with a really bright pop or vice versa, get your eye to exactly what it is you're trying to tell somebody. Using tones that are similar, like for example, using a white background with a light pink text, you're going to run into issues with people with color blindness or vision impairment. They're not going to be able to distinguish the difference in tones that are close to one another. So definitely make sure there's a high contrast between light and dark when you're trying to create a message for somebody. Make sure that your font is really crisp and really clean. A lot of people like to have fun with fancy cursive fonts and things like that, which every once in a while can work okay. But the 2 things that I would caution is, 1, we don't teach cursive in schools anymore. So there's actually a large portion of people who are not used to reading cursive. And because of that, it slows them down. So if you're trying to get somebody to interact with your material and actually read through it and understand it and engage with it, using a cursive font is not going to be the way that you're going to do that. So making thing that everything is very crisp and very clear is a really good goal. And also not using too many fonts within a graphic. Some people get a little crazy with like 4 or 5 different fonts. Again, it confuses your eye. Our eyes like order, our brains like order. And so using, and my second graphic below that, that's actually the same font used 3 different ways with a light, regular, and bold. So if you want to call action to something that you deem more important on the page, you don't have to worry about changing the font. Just maybe make it more bold so it still is in uniform with the rest of the document that you're creating. And definitely keep it simple. I think that that's like overall something to really remember. Just a little tidbit, if you're making things for social media, whatever the kind of graphic is, algorithms or social media are designed to not distribute graphics that have a lot of text on them. So if you create a graphic that's, 1080 by 1080, which is about the size of an Instagram ad, and you put 40 different words or characters in it, there's going to be very few people that Instagram decides to deliver that to. So your best bet is an image with a couple of words at best, and say the rest in your post. It'll deliver better every time. Using lines within something that you're creating. Again, I mentioned that our brains really like order. And so you'll notice on a lot of things that are designed that there'll be lines that are separating things or running off of a page or taking you down to a bio headshot why they've got some sort of summary of what you're about to see. Those lines are directing you to where people want you to look. It's really that simple. One of the things that Picasso kind of taught artists in general was being able to find the balance between chaos and order, which is always what your mind wants. It wants both of those things. And so his famous designs were very chaotic, but he always had chunks of lines so that you knew where to look and how to put the picture together. And so he was really using that same concept in his art. Big headers and big hero images. And by hero images, I mean just if you come to a website and the top of the website is almost one big photo or a scrolling portion of photos that are going through there. That's kind of a hero image that we're talking about, or big, huge titles of your font, like oversized titles, are definitely trending, being able to be right in somebody's face right away. So really picking imagery that represents you and using it to lead the person into what you want to tell them about is really important. A lot of things that we're seeing right now have to do with just a single image and then overlaying some text. You can bump down the contrast on the image. So maybe you've got a basket of strawberries and you're selling strawberries, but you want to put a word over that, and you just bump down the contrast and put the text over top, and you've created a situation where somebody knows you're talking about strawberries and whatever the text is that you put on top of it. So you're using the image to help tell a story. And then using icons to support your message is really important. I mean, there's a lot of brands right now, well, there has been, but I mean, Starbucks and Apple and Nike, you don't actually even need to see the name of their business, right? You can just see the swoosh, or you can just see whatever their logo is. Icons translate into any language, generally speaking. And so putting a little icon next to your phone number, that's a phone, or putting a little letter next to your email address, that's playing off imagery, which we are really as a society drawn to. And it's also helping people that may have a language barrier understand what they're supposed to use that for. Is there any questions so far? So elements for your signage. I always like to say that your signage is as good as a handshake. It really is your first impression. When somebody walks up to your booth or to your store or whatever it is that they're interacting with, they're going to be paying attention to all the things that they're seeing around you, and they're going to take that in, and that's their first impression of you. It does take, however, 5 to 7 impressions for somebody to remember who you are, who your brand is. So a lot of the reasons that people get billboards is not because they expect people to be driving down the road and calling a phone number right now, and I want to start interacting with that billboard. It's so that every day when I'm commuting, I look up and I see that logo or I see that brand, and then sooner or later I need insurance, and I'm like, oh, that billboard I remember that brand because I saw that billboard. So that's why we also, sometimes it looks like you overuse a logo in every single graphic you make. You maybe have your little logo on it. That's because people are not going to see it for 5 or 7 interactions. So keep that in mind. It's not overusing it to remind people. So when you think about your signage, definitely think about not having faded and dirty signs. I mean, it's one of the things that I notice right away if I'm going into any sort of establishment, because it's pretty easy to just print something out, especially with Canva, which we'll get to here in a moment, to print something out that's nice and fresh. It represents that you care about quality, right? And I think a lot of you in here are selling food to people, and that's really important to feel like you have put that kind of thought into your quality in general, because then I can relay that into how much you put into your product. Not crossing out prices. This is a huge pet peeve of mine. I've been to like restaurants, sit-down restaurants, and they've got like a slash mark next to the price, and it's now $1 more. So not only are you telling me that you raised your prices, but you also told me you can't reprint your menus. So it's just not really a look that you'd want to have, and it's pretty easy to find ways to just reprint that stuff every time that you want to use it so that those things are accurate. And I think one of the things to also, in the case of like boothing at a farmer's market, for example, is creating some sort of signage in Canva, maybe, ahead of time of sold out signs. And this is something that I kind of noticed in general when I'm at markets. And you never know what you're going to sell the most of. I mean, you bring what you think you're going to use, and sometimes you sell out and sometimes you don't. But if you created little sold out signs and maybe laminated them so you can use them over and over again and place them over products that are sold out, it just looks a little cleaner than starting to slash things. Yes. Well, I was thinking like if you have a cooler that's filled with like, these are the different kinds of meats we have, and maybe you have sold out icons that you put right over one of those listings, something like that. But yeah, I mean, I feel like you're saying that if you rearrange your table and there's no longer tomatoes, nobody would know the tomatoes were ever there. And that makes a lot of sense not to have a sign. Make it easy for people to understand your message. Again, language barriers, and especially thinking about places where visitors go. I mean, thinking about farmers market in general, it's really fun to go to local places when you visit places. So having signs that are really easy for people to know, instead of writing the word strawberry, maybe you just use an image of a strawberry and then put, I have no idea how much strawberries cost, $2.99 a pound, I don't know. So then you put the price there. And so now I don't need to know what the word strawberry means, but I know what a strawberry looks like. So you've definitely told me right away what it is that you're selling for what price. And I think also having clear signage about payment methods that you accept. I know personally that I don't always know if one particular booth is going to take cash and somebody else is going to take a card. And for me, it's a selling point because I'm awful at keeping cash. So if I see something that's very clear, like I can use my card here, I'm not going to feel like I'm wasting my time picking out stuff and then I get to the register and I can't pay. So that would be a recommendation there and those are very easy to just use universal signs for credit cards. Again, fancy fonts, it can get really difficult for people to read them. And then rule of thumb, if we're thinking about creating signage, whether it's a tent that goes above your booth or a sign similar to this that goes below your booth or any kind of signage, even a flyer, the rule of thumb is about 1-inch letter height per 10 feet. So if you want somebody to be able to see your booth 100 feet away, then you have 10-inch letters in your design. So you can kind of use that as a gauge of how big things need to be for how visible you want them to be. Stay true to your brand elements. So this goes back into branding and consistency. The color of your brand should definitely be in all of your signage. One of the things, if anyone here goes and looks at the social media for Lamplight Creatives, every single post either uses our yellow, which was also the yellow that you saw at the beginning of this presentation, which is in that corner now, or if we don't use the color within that graphic, we use our logo. So either way, you're either interacting with our color. And the nice thing about that is when you're scrolling through a news feed, for example, it's easy to recognize Lamplight yellow because it's the color that we use all the time. And there's a lot of colors that different brands use that it's pretty easy to identify. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I really like reading every time that they post something. And so you've actually stopped somebody just by using your color. Using the same text font in all of your materials. Again, consistency with your font is important. And I'll give you an example just from Super Bowl Sunday. The commercials for Super Bowl Sunday are more like storytelling. They're 30 seconds. They're a lot more elaborate than a lot of commercials that we'll see. So we were watching, and the beginning of this commercial starts off with like random clips of people doing things around their house, somebody in their yard doing something, and there's words that are flying across the screen about what these people are doing. And my boyfriend says, "Is this a Jerry's commercial?" And I said, "I don't know, Home Depot, Lowe's, something. Obviously, they're fixing things in houses." And he said, "That's the font of Jerry's." And then all of a sudden, Jerry's logo pops up on the screen. And so he was able to identify just by the words that they were using that it was the same font of the Jerry's logo. And I would say that my boyfriend is probably their target customer, which is probably why he knew that and I didn't. Including your logo whenever possible. Again, it takes 5 to 7 impressions for somebody to remember you. You don't really overuse your logo, in my opinion. You can do it very tastefully in the bottom of corners, somewhere where people are just constantly reminded of what your brand looks like. And then if you have a tagline, I would definitely use that as much as possible. So for example, Lamplight is making your ideas brighter. So sometimes we lead with making your ideas brighter because we want to correlate what our brand does with what our name is, with what our colors are, with what our font is. The whole thing is telling a story. And there's different pieces of that story that you can use at different times, depending on how you want to impact people. Okay, so Canva, like I promised we would talk about. Presenting a brand consistently across all platforms can increase your revenue by 23%. This is market research data that I just pulled for 2019. And so what this is basically saying is a summary of all the things that we just talked about. When people remember you and they trust you and they respect your brand, they're loyal to your brand, they're going to purchase from you more. If you look different every time they see you, you're going to be somebody totally new for them, regardless of if they've interacted with you multiple times before. So having them remember you is very important to increasing your revenue. So when you get inside of Canva, again, for the free version, it's canva.com. And Canva is basically the idea of canvas. That's the word that it's playing off of. When you go in there, you just need to sign up with your email address, and then you just say that you want the basic free version, and there's no expiration to that version. And then you can immediately start designing things. So one of the first things that I would recommend that you do, Canva has an option for you to create your brand colors. And what that does is, so you would choose all your colors. For Lamplight, we're yellow, gray, black, and white. And so that way, every time that you pull up a new canvas to create something, your colors are right there, and it says, do you want to select one of your colors? So you don't have to remember your color codes. You don't have to go in and reset those every single time you create your brand colors right there for your color palette. You can also upload all of your logos. I know, at least in my case, and I think in most people's, you have multiple versions of your logo. You've got some maybe with a white background, and some maybe transparent, and maybe some that are black and white, maybe some that are tiny that you put on your email signature. There's a lot of different logos. You can lose them very easily. Where did I sign it, or where did I save it, and what did I call it? Canva allows you to upload all of your logos. So when you're designing, you can decide, do I want the one with the transparent background? Do I want the one with the yellow background? And you can easily play with which logo you want to include. Yes? Oh, yeah. I would definitely love to brainstorm that. Oh, the question was, do I have any tips on creating a logo? I think that conversation is definitely about what it is that you specifically are doing, who you're trying to reach. And I'd love to chat with you after about some ideas. Organizing designs in your folders. So another thing that I think is great about Canva is you're using this every time that you do something. So you're not losing things in Google Drive or wherever you save things. You're not losing them and having to find them every time you want them. So you can organize folders and tag everything spring 2019 or whatever you want to name it, and easily find anything you did during spring of 2019, as an example. You can also create a gallery of your own photos. So when you're out and about and you're taking pictures of your booth, or people interacting with your products, or people holding your products, or whatever it is that you're taking photos of, you can upload those into Canva and create your own personal gallery of photos that you're now using in your own graphics. So you don't have to worry about using stock images that may or may not represent you, or somebody else has used before. I know I've definitely seen multiple times stock photos that I know have been used for 4 or 5 different companies. On the free version, and I will get to that. And the question was for people listening in, if Canva is downsizing their amount of free photos. And the answer was yes. Oh, yeah, in the pro version, you can change the pixel count and make them higher. You can't in the free version. Are they PNGs or JPEGs? JPEGs will degrade faster than a PNG. I always recommend using a PNG. And for those of you that don't know what that means, that's a photo image, a PNG. That's large format. So that one will take a lot more to upload, and that one will degrade more. PNG is going to be your best translation. Thank you. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. Another thing that I also recommend for people who may not have a lot of photos of your own product, that's okay. But don't go grab photos off of Google and just say, I like this photo and I'm going to use it. There's a lot of Creative Commons rules that say don't do that. But there are resources that are free, and I've written some of them, or I've provided some of them here for you. Unsplash.com, Pexels.com, Dreamstime.com. What those are is they are stock photos that photographers have released the rights to so that anybody can download it and use it for whatever they want. So if you're looking for photos and you just don't think the ones that you have are the right quality, log into one of these, type in the word you're looking for or the feeling or whatever it is that you're looking for, and you'll get a ton of photos to choose from. So the capabilities within Canva, you can use it as much as you want to from scratch or customize templates. So for example, there will be a whole bunch of templates that are available to you that are designed by professional graphic designers. And you can actually just say, ooh, I like that. I'm going to use that. I'm going to change that title to be my title. and you can customize that pre-made template to be something that you want. You can change colors in those, so you can still customize them a little bit to make them feel uniquely you, but not have to worry about starting from scratch and building everything that somebody sees. We just kind of touched on, there's a couple of different ways that you can download things that you're making. PNGs and JPEGs, which are images, often you'll use those for uploading onto social media. But you can also download PDFs, which means you can link things in that PDF. So if you actually wanted to send somebody a flyer via email and then put a link to your website in that flyer, when they're interacting with it, they can just click within your flyer and now they're on your website. So it's a pretty cool opportunity to use a PDF for that. You can create presentations. I did not create this. This is through Prezi, but you can create presentations in Canva as well. So if you wanted like a one-stop shop, and you can also order your prints through Canva. So if you make a poster, for example, or something that you want to put on a sandwich sign that you're going to be using, and you don't want to be running around town looking for a printer, it has an option in there where you can just basically tell Canva, how much is this going to cost me to have you ship it to me, and you're done. So you're doing it all from within your home or wherever you like to work. Or as I mentioned, you can create from total scratch, literally a white template, and you can decide everything that goes into that and choose all the elements. There's drag and drop options for you to choose from. So if you want a line, if you want a circle, if you want to put in an image, you want a text box, you can do all of that from creating from scratch. And just a couple of things that I put on here that you can make: flyers, business cards, gift certificates, letterheads, labels, menus, little recipe cards. I think some people probably keep those at their booths. You can make those and make 6 or 8 of them on a page and cut them so you're not using a ton of ink or a ton of paper. Infographics, postcards. I mean, it's limitless really what you can do, but those are just some examples. And then another thing that's really nice about using Canva is that you can create one image and then you can resize it for a bunch of different things. So if you wanted to make a Facebook banner and you wanted to make an Instagram ad and you wanted to make an 8.5 by 11 flyer, you start with one size, and then when you're done, you tell Canva, okay, now I want you to resize it for me. And it just magically appears resized. And it doesn't always come out exactly how sometimes you have to shift text a little bit to fill in the margins, but it saves you from having to create 7 different versions of something that you might want to use in multiple different ways. And I just touched on a couple of them, but you can use it for all sorts of stuff: blog headers, email headers, Twitter posts, Pinterest pins, Etsy shop covers, obviously Facebook banners, Instagram posts. It's really limitless. They have them all predefined. So you don't need to know that the dimensions of a Facebook banner are X and Z. It just already knows. And you say, I want a Facebook banner. And it says, great, this is what you're working with. And then you start. Very easy. Any questions so far? So, and we talked about this earlier. So if you wanted to upgrade to Canva Pro, and I don't work for Canva, and I'm just so everybody knows, I'm just telling you about what I know. Upgrading to the Pro version will get you a lot more access to the photo galleries, thousands of more photos versus a couple of hundred photos. You get a lot more design elements that you don't have to pay for. If you get the free version, you essentially have access to everything, but it will charge you 99 cents for this particular line or whatever. But if you get the Pro version, now you've expanded all of these things that you have available.
Are you able to change the photos so like on Instagram, you're able to do all this cool stuff, but I have technology where I'm trying to plan out my social media calendar, but then my pictures look crappy because I can't get the tools to just Canva do that. My pictures.
Oh, so can you edit within there? Yeah, you can crop and you can do some basic editing, but it doesn't have, like, in my opinion, it doesn't have a really robust like editing program. So I might recommend using something like BeFunky, which is also a free online editing tool, and making it look like you want there. And then you can bring it into Canva and start to crop or do whatever you wanted in there. You also get, for outside of the elements in the photos, if you had multiple people on your team or within your business that all wanted to have their own profiles within your Canva account so that everybody can work separately and at the same time, the Pro version will give you options to add people into the account. You can also very easily just give someone your email and your password to get in there if you don't want to do that, but you wouldn't have your own space defined for you within Canva. So there's ability to scale up essentially. And I think the Pro version is like $119 a year or something. It's pretty cheap. Yeah.
One thing the question about Pro is really increase the density of the things I download. I did a very complicated design using a template recently, and it won't download it anything I consider reasonable density. Will that be better?
I don't run into that problem personally, and I do use Pro. So I haven't extensively used the free version. So I haven't experienced what you have. So I guess my answer would be yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes, you will. And you'll get more of those when you get into Pro. So, yeah. And then, I just feel like it's important to say that there is still a place and a time to have a professional graphic designer design something in a professional graphic design software like InDesign. And the reason I say that specifically related to food stuff, which is why most of us are here, if you create food labels, for example, that go around something like this coffee cup, where it's not the same dimension all the way around, if you create something that has a straight edge, it's going to fold over itself. So what that requires is die cutting, which is a very special kind of creation and very to the centimeter, everything has to be correct and it's almost oval shaped. You can't do that in Canva, just can't. So that would be something that you would need to recruit a designer to do. Or if you wanted to, like we use the example, make a billboard. I would not recommend making that in Canva and expecting it to translate 15 feet long. It's not for large format. So there is going to be some limiting capabilities, but not very many for what most people need to do every day. I personally use Canva every day for something, and I haven't run into a lot of roadblocks where I needed something else. So the Canva training tomorrow that Rebecca kind of told us about, what we're basically doing in that training is we're going to be setting up Canva accounts. Everybody's bringing laptops, tablets, whatever devices that they're comfortable working on. We'll talk a little bit about this stuff in the beginning, so you'll have another chance to interact if you do decide to come to that. And then from there, everybody's going to start working on real life things that you want to use. And that could be designing your business card or social posts or a flyer. I'm not going to tell you what it is that you need to make, but if you have some ideas of stuff, and I will be there to give you opinions or ideas or show you how to use something in the software that you may not be able to, that you may not know. We'll be doing that for at least an hour tomorrow. So it'll be real hands-on if somebody actually wants to experience how to use Canva and have somebody there to help navigate. That will be held at the Corvallis Foundry, and it'll be 5:30 to 7:30. And you can go to the corvallisfoundry.com website and register under events for that if anybody is interested. And I think that's all I had for you. Is there any questions? Okay. Sounds great. Perfect. Thank you.
during the winter months, and year-round she has more in the summer months, 60 to 65 vendors. It's a producer-only market, like our markets. And the thing that's really special about this market is where the power of produce began, where we stole it from. Many others have stolen it before we did, actually. Last year she got an award from our statewide organization, the Oregon Farmers Markets Association, as an outstanding large urban market. And now finally about Jackie and not just the market. She has a background in business development and retail, and she teaches classes to market farmers and wannabe vendors at both PCC, that's Portland Community College, right? Yep. And CCC is Clackamas, I'm going to say. Okay. She also has a small nursery, and she's a vendor at the market as well, at her market and the Milwaukee market. And she is thinking about improving her own signage because she's, unfortunately, she says she's going to retire from managing the market this spring. So that leaves me.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find, I've got a lot of PowerPoints on here, and I'm just trying to find the right one. Albany Clay, yeah.
Albany sounds good.
Yeah.
I'm not adding anything.
So,
Stretch it out.
yeah, I'll stretch it out. So I've got some flyers here. Now I understand that a lot of you are already vendors. So these kind of little sheets are really directed for people who are real newbies. But you could maybe take one and, maybe some of you are going to be real new and some of you might take one thing off this and say, I know the rest. So I'll just maybe start at the back and pass them around. It has my phone number on there, actually my husband's phone number, because my phone number is the market, and I'm going to be retiring in May. So I thought, if you have any questions, call that number, and that's my husband, then I'll get it. So I'll get the message. So as Rebecca said, I'm not only, my husband's a vendor at this market and at Milwaukee. My mother is the longest tenured vendor at our market. She started in 2005 when the antique business she worked for, the husband and wife got a divorce and just landed her suddenly with no job. So she'd been a cook for the rich and famous in Los Angeles. She had her own farm-to-table restaurant in England. She was just about to get a Michelin star when my dad died. So she was a great cook. And I said, Mom, why don't you just make things and take them to the market? And she was just a little bit snobby about it. And she went, really? The market? And anyway, she's still there, and she's 87 in April. And she's got the best business. And every year she just exceeds the year before. And I mean, Christmas, we must have had 2 inches of rain, and she had the best market day she's ever had in 15 years. So anyway, so I know the vendoring side of it. I know the organizational side of it because I'm the manager. But I know also being a customer because I go out and visit other markets. So I kind of got the 3 things going there. And I have to say also talking to customers as a manager when they're shopping, something that maybe you guys don't realize, but you are like, farmers in particular are like rock stars. I mean, you are awe-inspiring to these customers. And I think maybe, when we're in the grind of coming to market and producing this product to sell, you don't realize how people hold you in such esteem. And sometimes it behooves you to kind of step back a minute and just relish the fact that you're doing something that very, very few people can do. And in fact, do. So you are kind of mystical and mythical, and you're all that. So pat yourself on the back and, really take pride in your display at the market and how you interact with customers, because they're coming to have a unique experience. It's magical. Markets are magical. They're so far from a supermarket. They're how our grandparents used to shop, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents. It's how the Native Americans used to shop. It's it's a marketplace that you're creating. So, rather than just like coming and putting some kind of tablecloth on the table and putting stuff on the table, just step back a minute and think, wow, I am doing something pretty special here. I got a bit of a potty mouth. I really let something else. Something damn special. So anyway, we'll go ahead. I'm not going to read this or read what I've given you because I think we're beyond that. But if you have any questions, just ask me as we go along. And I love Neil Young. And so I thought what he said was really fabulous. Nobody should ever drive past the farmer's market without stopping. So there's our logo, and I was listening to what you said, and I was trying to think, what are the colors that we have? But anyway. So I'm just going to give you some examples of some vendors that I have at my market who I think maybe are doing things well and maybe are kind of missing things as well. CAFM, the orchard, really great farm up on Parkdale. He always has the blue cloths. He always has his boxes in a nice line and big banners at the back. I mean, you just can't miss CAFM. That does a good job. And here they are at my market. It's cherry time. And they're just set up nicely and always has this logo, as you say, branding, right there. It's on everything. It's on their little price signs too. We all know that abundance sells, right? And if you don't have such an abundance, you can fake it. You can screw up paper bags, if you've got some still, newspaper, something, just burlap sacks, and put them in the bottom of the tub, and then just put the vegetables on the top. You don't have to have that whole thing filled. You can fake it. But abundance, it has to be abundant and gorgeous. I've got plenty of pictures of abundant stores, but I know that you all know what that looks like. Sun Love does a great job. Melissa here is a woman-owned farm. It's her farm. She has no help from her husband. He's an IT guy, so I guess their website's pretty cool. But I think she has one seasonal helper, and she farms probably about 7 acres, and I don't know how she does it. I don't know. But she comes with the tiniest little truck and the tiniest little trailer, and it limps into the market, and it's just jammed with this gorgeous stuff. But she does a lovely thing with displays. She got a little bit exuberant here, and she raised it up, and she built it up with buckets, and then she put a wooden plank, and then she put a cloth. But what she's done is she's rather obscured her banner. So you may, if you're going to build up your display, which you should do, use the elevation as well as the flat thing. Make sure you're not obscuring your banner. Just gorgeous abundance, makes it really clear what things are. She's got her pricing down there, grab and go bags. She does a really good job. Tablecloths in a some people who have, even my own, I looked at my own pictures the other day. Oh my gosh. Beautiful lime green canopy. but they stood under it and they looked ill. You didn't even want to go near them because you didn't want to catch anything. I mean, they looked ill. And I went, oh, honey, that's a bad color. And you can't really see here, but I think on the next slide, see that looks green, you know, and I want to take pictures of their beautiful product, but it just comes out green. So watch that. One thing these people are really good, and you'll see in your little sheet that I gave you, I think I put it down 4 times. Tell your story. That's what sets you apart from anyone else in the market, is you've got to develop your own identity. In the corporate world, it's called branding, but I don't think we want to brand anything necessarily at the market. People come because markets are unique, vendors are unique, farmers are unique. This farm, they do a lot of wild foraging. They do a lot of fermenting. They have 40 acres and they have 20 acres in woods. So they're kind of woodsy, and they like to be kind of magical and woodsy. So as it gets darker in the, you know, the shoulders of the market, and during the winter, they'll buy those little battery operated lights, you know, little teeny tiny ones, and they'll decorate up their booth, and it's kind of magical. They wild forage mushrooms. So they put them on a bed of moss they collected. It just makes it kind of interesting. It sets them apart from other farmers. Here's another display of their wild mushrooms. And there's always a pine cone or two, or a Douglas fir cone in this case, you know, tossed around in the booth. There's always fronds of cedar. It just sets them up. It gives them that kind of feel to their booth that's very different. So they are really telling their story about how they go out and forage. This is a colored canopy that actually kind of works because she's selling lavender. And yes, it casts a kind of a lavender color over everything, but then everything she's got is lavender, so it kind of works. New farm, she's a single mother who's growing all this lavender herself, and my kids used to play with her, and she used to play in my house too, so kind of fun to see that whole come around. And a nice banner at the back, just real plain, lavish lavender, black and white, very simple, very lovely and classy. But not everything has to be kind of really branded and really fancy. You can get a upturned wooden box and stencil words on it. And this definitely says it's farm fresh berries. I'm all for using up recycled things, making your own things and not spending a whole ton of money. Coyote Ridge, they're telling their story here because they're brand new. They were brand new, they're not now. But years ago they were. And they wrote this really nice little chalkboard up and they stuck it right in the front of their booth. And I did see a lot of people look at it. It was just nice, nicely written and nice words. And they're very happy to be certified naturally grown. They wanted to get that across. This is them. I think this is the first summer they were vending at the market. And they've gone to Home Depot and got that chalkboard that you can get. And you can cut it really easily. And you can make little signs out of it. Super quick and easy. And then just put a little bit of Velcro on it or clip it or whatever. We use that a lot personally and at the market, those chalkboards at Home Depot. And here again, they've got a little display out front of their booth, and then they've done the chalkboards again. Super simple. And of course, they put Coyote Ridge so people get the name again of the farm. And now Lindsay's actually got these aprons that she wears all the time because she wants people to know that she's the farmer, she's the one running the booth. And, you know, having white makes you think of cleanliness and freshness. And it looks like she's ready to cook you a meal. And she does cook at our market. She takes over the market kitchen. And this is a little bit later. I think this was about a year or so ago. And she's just migrated to just this beautiful collection of product. And she's brought some flowers in. I'm all about flowers. Even if you aren't selling flowers, just pop a few in the booth because it makes everything look pretty and colorful. And she's built it up. See how she's tipped the boxes and used that height to display. So this was a farm a few years ago. I love the people, and they were so proud of their White Star logo. And they used it everywhere. But I mean, really, you look like you're buying signs. You can't even see the produce. They went nuts with their signs. And they were gorgeous, but it was like, wow, you know.
I just love it. I love the concept, the red and white, very simple, but really, it was just a little too much. This was years ago too. People were bringing in some tulips and they had this cute little cart. So look around at thrift stores or garage sales. If you have any cute props that you think would fit with the product that you're bringing, you know, snatch them up and incorporate them because it adds visual texture. And people's eyes are drawn and they kind of go, oh, look at that, kind of cute. Create height and abundance. If you only have beets to sell, that's okay, but just make them look fabulous. And I know there's some flower farmers here, maybe, or there was meant to be. Okay. So this is kind of the standard, you know, look that we get at markets with the beautiful bunches. I have 3 flower farmers in my market, and they were all kind of looking the same. They had the black plastic pots, and they did the white paper, and they have beautiful bunches. But then one, and I wished I could find the photograph, but I couldn't find it. One has separated themselves out, and they're now using brown paper. And it looks very Instagrammy and very Pinteresty, and it's just kind of separated them out because people come and they're looking for flowers. They don't really see the name of the flower farm, but they're looking at the bunches. And then, so if you can differentiate yourself with maybe different colored paper even, it'll set yourself apart and have people find you. I love this vendor. She's just fabulous, and she's, you know, has a good business, but she does wedding flowers. But where is the signage telling people that? There's nothing. The language barrier is a little bit hard. The rest of the family speak English a little better. And she goes, oh, yeah, I do weddings. But I said, well, where's your signage? You know, think about little extras that you can offer. Do you want to do special orders? So maybe make a big sign and put that, because people don't automatically assume. And their name is just Lee Garden. But it's a tiny sign. It's right at the back because they put 2 canopies together. So it's like 20 feet back over there. Nobody really knows what they're called. And so I often get, you know, calls saying, I really love that vendor that has the flowers and I want to order for my daughter's wedding or a shower or something, but I don't know the name. Well, that's a problem. You've got to identify yourself in the market and have a good sign so people know who you are. This was another flower farmer that did differentiate themselves at Mother's Day. They had these cute, these are actually paper, but you can reuse them. And they have a plastic lining, and they're like little ready-made vases, which I thought was kind of fun. So meat farms. Anyone selling meat here? Okay, cool. Fisher Ridge Farm, Great Farm, Century Farm, Family Farm. There's Sue Fisher. And she's was a school teacher and a school nurse. So she just loves to talk and loves to teach, which is a great attribute at the market because people want to learn. Customers want to learn from you. So she is all about teaching people the right cuts of meat and how to cook them, because people don't know how to cook. If you haven't noticed, we've lost that art, you know. Not a good picture of Sue. I'm sorry, she's going to hate me for that one. She's kind of got a grimace on her face, but she's all about signage, and she's just fabulous. This was right at the beginning of when she first came in. Nice logo at the back, black and white. You can't quite see the banner, but she did this. You know, being the teacher, she drew out these little, you know, pig, lamb, beef, and did all the different cuts, and people love that. And she built a solid business. I mean, she's actually just given up her action. You know how the thing is, farmers, one's got to work and one be on the farm. Well, they're both on the farm now, and that's because of the business that she's built at our market. And I don't know if you can see, I didn't have a better picture, but right at the back, she's had these banners made now where it has the cuts of the different meat. And then she has this with all the different offerings that day. And yes, she does cross it out with a pen though when she's sold out. And very often at the end of the day, pretty much all of that is crossed out. Another meat farm has done a really great thing. They got a 10-foot space. So probably almost 3 feet of that front is a great big sign like that hanging there. And what they've done is they've done Velcro, stuck Velcro on it, and then they've made little cards of what they offer. And what they offer changes, because sometimes they have chicken, Sometimes they've sold out of chicken. Sometimes they have duck and sometimes they don't. Maybe they just have duck breast, or sometimes they have duck liver pate, or sometimes they have broth. So she's made all these little laminated cards with everything that they produce and sell. And then depending on what she's bringing to market, she'll sort through the cards and then she'll stick them up on the board. So when she's actually talking to a customer and taking their money, the next customer can be looking at the board and deciding what they're going to buy. Instead of coming up and saying, well, what do you have? Or looking at a long list of things. It's very visual what they have. And I thought that was a really cool idea. On the other side of her booth, she has a table. And then she's produced her story. So same idea. She's done Velcro and then she's stuck photographs, laminated photographs of the farm. So she's literally bringing the farm to the market. That's what you want to do, whatever you're doing. If you're, selling flowers or meat or vegetables, or I think there's maybe some hot food vendors, whatever you're doing, people want to know, how do you do it? So, if you're baking, take a picture of yourself in the kitchen and put that up in your booth. They want to know the nitty gritty. They want to know how you're creating this stuff. It's alchemy to them. And then you can see that to keep the kids happy, she's got some farm animals here, a little tractor and that. Well, we had a rather challenged individual came through the market and took all those and walked around and put them all on different people's tables. So she literally had to run around the market and gather up all her animals. It was quite funny, but she's got an email list. That's a great way to send out, if you want to do emails or whatever.
So one of our concerns with having our booth is with the 10 by 10, the fear of putting things along the side and making your own case an accident where people don't want to come into.
Sure. Well, they don't actually have people come in because they've got all their coolers and they've got a seat. Not that you should ever sit ever, but occasionally you do. And then they've got this big sign with what they have, and then they've got the table here with information. And then in the back here, they've got long tables on top of which are more coolers. So when they're interacting with people, people don't actually walk into their booth. That's a really good comment, though. Yes, you don't want to make a cave because, for one, people don't want to walk into a cave and won't come and see you. But they actually present their whole thing right at the front of their 10 by 10. They're right there interacting. So that's a really good point.
Can I interrupt just to underline something she just said here? One of the most difficult types of booths to set up in the market is a meat vendor booth,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
they inherently cannot show off their product. It
Right.
has to be in thick-walled ice chests, which are most likely going to be on the ground, except for this vendor has some of them up
Some
at
on the
waist
table.
level, too. And so the only way you can communicate is to do these extra things.
Extra things, yeah.
A veg vendor, I wouldn't be opposed to a veg vendor having pictures of their farm, but I would not say to put so much space into it. And so that's really one of the reasons we're here tonight, is because we have, or if you were just an egg vendor, it'd be the same problem. Any vendor that has a temperature controlled product has the problem that Jackie is showing you a good solution to.
Right. And that's not to say, if you are a produce farm, that you couldn't put a few little pictures. I just love pictures because I know customers want to know what goes on behind. What were you doing that got all this product to market? They want to know that story. So even if you've got one little sign, maybe this big in your and it's got some pictures of you on the farm, they love that. They love the backstory. So this is Campfire Farms, right? And they just had a brand new banner done. And you might think, why is she dressed as a dinosaur? Well, that was Halloween market, and we all dress up for Halloween market. So, and I wish she'd stepped away because I wanted to show you this. They did actually go out and have professional people design this banner, but it is a most fabulous logo. And now they're branching out. They're doing T-shirts for everyone and sweatshirts, and it's a very cool logo. I love it. This was another meat vendor that I had, and I think this person tells the story really well too. Nice banner. You can't miss what they're selling. It's right in your face. And she's got a few value added, which you can see up here on the table. She's got a whole list of the availability of product here. I think that's kind of a really nice kind of clean, maybe a little, kind of block that off because that's another vendor's sign. But one thing I did want to point out at this juncture was that sign there. Can you see debit and credit?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you a story. We used to sell, as every market does, a ton of tokens, right? People come up and with their credit and debit and snap card and, we sell tokens. But our token machine 3 years ago kept breaking constantly. Like it would work for a week, it would break down, they would overnight me a machine and it broke down the next week, they'd overnight me another one. It was ridiculous and we just canceled it. But because we didn't have the ability to take debit or credit, Snap I could do because I could write coupons. I went out and I had these made. I went to the local printer and I had about 30 or 40 of these made and laminated. And I felt so bad for my customers that I just went around and I said, look, no one's got tokens to spend now, but do you have the debit or credit capability? And they said, yeah. And I said, well, where are you telling people that? Oh, I got this little sign here right on the table, or I got it on my banner in the corner right here. And I go, people aren't getting that. Well, you're right. I really don't do much debit or credit. I said, well, that's why. So I made all these, I walked around, we stuck them up everywhere, and my market token sales have dropped off a cliff. I'm doing 1/10 of what I used to do. And what's happened is the vendors are actually taking more money because when you are a customer and you have debit or credit and you're buying, some sausages, and you say, oh, you take debit or credit? Yes, I do. Oh, well, in that case, I'll have some bacon. And do you have any chops? Oh, put those on too. So suddenly their budget's out the window because they've got a plastic card. But if you're not telling customers that you've got that capability, don't expect them to assume it. So that was really the reason of putting that slide up as well, was that debit and credit sign. And then, simple props. She bought value added. She didn't have time to do some fancy display. She just got a wooden box and it worked pretty good. She also made her own sign way back when, and everybody loved it and she kept it hanging there. So, you don't have to go break the bank to get really fancy signs made. It's nice, but if you don't have the money, she made this herself. And I actually love stuff like that. I prefer that to the Coral Plus plastic sign, but you can get inventive, piece of wood, lash it together. We're actually doing this now in the information booth, but I'm having them made with plastic. But one says, follow us on Facebook, one says follow us on Instagram, and one says download our app. So I've got 3 hanging there, and I've got 2 of them. I put one at the pop booth and one at the information booth, and they work really well. And then when you want to add another one, it doesn't cost very much to have that little sign made. These gals do a great job, and they're just always cheerful. That's another thing. If you're expecting to do a good business at the market, don't come with a grumpy face. You've got to smile. You've got to be on the whole time. Nice big banner, they sell berries, let's face it. This lady is new. She is an organic hazelnut farmer. And she is telling her story beautifully on her big banner at the back. I wish I had a better photograph again. It's quite busy, but there's a picture of the orchard here. Lovely picture of her and her family in the orchard. Other pictures of the other orchard, some fruit. She doesn't only do hazelnut, she does pears and peaches, but not very many, occasionally. Right here. The big news about her is that she's certified organic, but she hasn't got it on her banner. And she realized after she spent $1 bazillion having this beautiful banner made, she said, oh, I didn't really put on that I was organic. And I went, yeah. She then had some, nice labels done and everything. But the only thing on the product label is this tiny, tiny little organic sign down on the corner. People love that fact that she's organic. And she needed to proclaim that. One thing she did do, which I think is a really good point, is if you can, and this is, you know, the big 100-mile look down on the perfect vendor, but if you can, try and make your booth a little bit kid friendly. She is selling nuts and spreads, but what's out of sight on the ground is she brought in a big pestle and mortar, and she's got a sack of nuts, and then the kids just get to work smashing the nuts and then picking the nuts out and eating them. So the kids love this. It's something they can bash and break and make noise and a mess. She puts a big rubber mat down. So of course the kids are engaged. So what are the parents going to do? They're going to buy. So, you know, anything you can do to add some little thing for kids will attract their parents. And there you can see what she's done is she's made a little postcard. That's really cute. That tells a story. On the back is all her information. But again, right down here is just the USDA organic. She could have had a big organic over the top here or something. But anyway, she's doing fabulous, and nut butter's the best. This was just to show you that props can be super simple. This is a palette that somebody bought and upturned it and then hung their garden bags on it. Another way that this vendor's getting across that this is honey and bee pollen and everything is they had some little honeycombed wooden display pieces made, which I thought was kind of cute. This is a gal who produces fabulous gluten-free baked good mixes. So you buy a packet, you go home and you make a crumble, a pie, cookies, and it's all gluten-free. And it's real gluten-free. So anyone with celiac can purchase this and buy it. And she's got, you know, really lovely color coordinated plates with a nice tablecloth in the background and turquoise, beautiful sign. And nowhere really can you see that it's gluten-free. And she went, oh, you're right. And in fact, right behind her in little words like this on the corner down here is gluten-free. But she's not telling her story as well as she could. So what she did is she went and got another banner and put it at the front with gluten-free right across. I think she should switch this and hang this at the back, because my pet peeve with anyone who hangs stuff across the front is that the first two customers that come up and standing, nobody can see. So, you know, always, you can do that, it's okay, but get stuff up at the back or at the front of the canopy. You've got about a foot, maybe 8 by 1, that you can make a little a banner going along the front and then have one at the back too. But you can see here, she's got whole grains, artisan flowers, local, sustainable, and then right down here, gluten-free. People could miss that so easily. This is a vendor that does just a great job. I mean, it's all organic skincare, and she's just nailed it. It's pretty, it's organized, it's clean, it draws you in. You want to go and find out what are in those bottles. You know, you look like you can almost smell the flowers in the booth there. And she, again, using flowers is sweet. I popped this in because it's my pop club, but I'm just showing you the color. Purple, I heard, wasn't maybe such a great one, but it's a kind of a gender neutral, so it attracts boys and girls to the club. And I did that so that kids who can't read that can come in and see purple, they know that's their place to go to. So think about that, maybe, as you were saying, color. You know, pick your colors, and that's your colors. So that was such great advice earlier. This lady tells her story beautifully. She's selling a really strange product. It's camelina oil, and it comes from the high desert in the east side of Washington. It's an ancient grain, and how the heck are you going to explain this? So she's got, you know, super organized here. She's got the whole thing going. She's bought in some camelina so people can see what it looks like. She's got a picture of the field. She's got some nutritional information. I mean, I just think that whole thing, it's kind of a weird product, but you're likely to go over and go, what is this? Because you're drawn into it. She's made it very presentable. This happens to be my mom, and you can tell she's British, and she's selling scones. I think that day she sold out. She only has arugula, but she sells scones and jam and lemon curds and stuff like that, and British chutneys, British Indian chutneys. So she's quite proud of that. So she hangs her flags, and she's telling her story. This was just caramel sauce again, but I'm just now pointing out chalkboards. Pretty simple way to get designs up. You've got to figure out though that if they're out in the rain, they're going to wash off. And that's a bit of a problem, but during the summer market, it's okay.
If you're using chalkboards, what sort of chalk do you use that actually shows up on the chalkboard? Because I've had a problem where there's white chalks that won't.
Yeah.
On it.
I think this one she's using chalk pens.
Okay.
And I love them, but they're not very sustainable. And every time I use one and then I toss it in the trash, I'm thinking, really? When I do chalkboards for the market, because I do have some A-frame chalkboards to say cooking demo today, I just use the big sidewalk chalk and press hard and wash it off, you know. And then again, she's got a great big banner at the back, very nice table there, very clean, simple, easy to read. Inject some humor. This is a soap vendor called Tidy Whitey, and he wraps all his soap in men's underwear. So I just thought I'd show you that because it's fun to have a little bit of fun, you know. So if you can think of anything comical, but I just like, he's such a sweetheart. You've seen this. Grano breads. They've got a much bigger and better display now. They've actually bring in like big wooden shelving unit with glass fronts and everything. This is when they first started, but I love this because it was so simple. They've just done a chalkboard, big grano breads. That was it. That's all you needed to know. And they got this lovely colorful tablecloth, and they picked out the colors in the. I thought, oh, that's so cute. But anyway, so flowers add a little bit of something. This I put up because, you know, people, if you have signs, and I'm sure you will have signs at the market, you know, you accept food bucks or you accept pot club tokens or whatever, put them up, you know, make them on the leg of the canopy so that people can see them. So many vendors will like stick them, you know, onto the tablecloth. And I go, don't do that, because the first customer standing there, A, is going to knock them off. And secondly, he's going to cover them up. So stick them on the leg. This was just a vendor who sells soap products, laundry detergent and stuff. This is just an example of a basket and upturned boxes, clean tablecloth, can make things look really nice. Again, this is a chalkboard and nice writing, very clear what they're selling. And here's their booth. They got a banner at the back and they got a banner at the front. So I like that because they cover both areas, and that's nice. And then telling this story pretty good there, what they're all about. Townsend Distillery, very simple font. Again, I like that. I like that clean font. It's the same font here than it is there. And if you notice, she's even somehow got a patch, which is the same design as the gin. I don't know how she did that. Or maybe they took the gin label from the fabric. I don't know, but I just like that. It was very simple. Now, this guy's doing things that I say don't do, which is put stuff on the ground. But he brings this giant old picture frame, I guess, which has chalkboard in it. And he just props it up on the ground and the line forms, you know. But people love that sign. And this was somebody's Instagram picture that they took. They were out bicycling at the market. They bought a pie. They took that picture and they sent it to me. But he just uses a big old frame and it works.
How many times a day does he have to chase it down when the wind blows it?
It's heavy.
Oh.
And it hasn't really flipped over very much. I think I have him towards the prevailing wind. So when the wind comes, it's blowing it back. You know how you sight people in certain ways. This is my own little nursery, and I made these signs. This is not my writing, but my husband's not as good as mine. But anyway, but I took these. These are just empty frames. I think I found them at a junk shop, or maybe it was a garage sale. Went down to Home Depot, got the chalkboard, filled them out, and I've got a bazillion of these. I mean, I literally have a stack of them. Great big ones, small ones, and they're so useful. So useful. And we got an A-frame sign that tells people what's coming next week, because not all plants are ready at the same time. And at the back, we haven't yet splurged, but I think I might when I retire, for a big banner at the back. So we found this old metal frame thing. I don't know where it was. We found it. And then those are metal rusted letters that we hung on the back so that they know it was Maggie's farm. This vendor, very smooth, very branded. They've obviously had some design work done, and it's really gorgeous. They sell stone ground spices. But they're telling their story nicely, and they've got some samples out front. And this is, goat cheese. So how do you tell people what's in the jars? And cajeta and feta right here. And so they've got goat on the label. But not only that, they've got this lovely big sign at the back with a goat on it. And then they bought a metal goat as well. I think they found it at Home Depot was selling them at some point. But they're telling the story quite nicely. It's cheese. They've got the big board with all the list of what they brought, and goats are everywhere. So there's no getting away that is goat cheese. Talk about branding. I really love Two Towns Cider House branding. That's if you've got $1 bazillion. But you may think about doing something big at the back like they've done. Hand painting, something yourself, or just getting creative. It's just to kind of stir these things in your mind. I love the fact that they got damn fine cider here, and they've got signs. I mean, it's no doubt that this is Two Towns. They're again telling their story real good. This ladies, they make candles. This is at Christmas, so they brought in little Christmas trees, and they've got a really good sign at the back telling everyone that it's BB Northwest Candles. You can't mistake that. I don't know why I put this in, except I really love Art. He's one of my farmers at the market. I think he just won favorite farmer in the market because all the pop club kids give him buttons, and I think he won the most buttons. But he's got a banner that is pretty flimsy, and it just kind of flaps around. I think he could tell his story a lot better. I think this banner could have a lot more information on it. He's totally sustainable. He's got a beautiful closed loop farm. He doesn't bring in any inputs. He creates all his own compost. He creates all his own nitrogen. I mean, he's just a really good farmer, but he's not super telling his story that great. This is his sister. This is the only competition I have in my market is between him and his sister, like who's selling out what. But she's great. Now, she's got a whole wardrobe of different aprons. And again, I wish I had better photographs, but her shtick is that she wears a cute apron every single day, and she kind of switches it out. And she'll wear, short shorts underneath, and the guys love it, and she just sells really well. I'll be with you in a minute, dear. I'm just saying hello to Tina, and she does a really good job. And then this is her booth at Halloween. She'll paint the snake gourds to be like snakes. She'll bring in ghosts and that. She'll have things that move and noise. I mean, she just lives every holiday. And what that does is families love her, and kids love her. And if you got the kids, you got the parents. So she does a super good job with her booth display. Still Weathered Spirits, talking about what you were saying earlier about branding and color. They've got a really great branding going on, and they're brand new, and they have just nailed it because their business, plus the fact their gin's fabulous. But you can see they've got continuity of the font and the colors and the labels, and everything's just really professional there. We have so many. I have to have a different booze calendar for my market. I've got so many distilleries wanting in. It's crazy. Ashwagandha. I mean, how the heck are they going to tell the story of what is in these little bottles that they have? They bring these little brown bottles, and that's all it is. And there's just a line of them on the table. So they're telling their story by bringing the ashwagandha plant and then the ashwagandha root. And then they're explaining to people that these are the seedlings. This is the root. This is what we dry, we grind up, and then we infuse and blah, blah. So they've got a really nice sign here saying what they're selling. And then at the back, they've got their big sign, Portland Ashwagandha Farm. they're doing a good job. This is CBD stuff. They bought a hemp plant, and they're telling the story from that plant to what's in the bottles, and they got all their information out. I think this was the first day they ever came to our market, so they got 3 people behind the counter there, behind the table. This lady has a very tricky product to get the word out. It's dried organic vegetables and herbs that she powders and mixes in flavor profiles. So you literally add a teaspoon to your dish, and wow, it just adds so much flavor. So how she gets the message across is both in the signage, front and up at the back, very clear. Organic vegetables and herbs, gently dehydrated, no salt, no preservatives. And then she's cooking. She's making tiny little samples that she's putting on some bread here and getting people to taste. And that's how she's able to get the word out about her product. This I just showed, this is a vegan bakery, but they fascinate me because they bring a rolled up piece of vinyl, actual kind of like thin floor, and they just spread it out on the table, and it makes a really nice marble look kind of countertop. So when people are coming to buy, they can put their bags down to get the money out, and it's a nice space for customers to rest a while and then choose what they want and then get a box. So that was kind of interesting, I thought, to think about.
Especially if they're bakery, they have a storefront bakery,
Yeah.
They have a marble top.
Yeah, it brings the same, exactly.
How are they getting that marble look?
It's just like a sheet vinyl. It's I got to exactly. It's not as thick as actual flooring, but it's almost.
And it's reusable. Like
It's reused. They just roll it up, and then they just roll it out, and it kind of curves, but then it curves over the sides, and then they put stuff on it, which weights it down. And then at the end of the day, they can just spritz it with a little bit of wheat bleach, wipe it off, and it's all super clean for the next market. And it looks really effective. I'll go back to that one. And you see very simple at the back too. So this is bakery vegan pastries. And that's all you need to know, really. And this vendor has ferment kits. So if you want to make sauerkraut, if you want to make yogurt, if you want to make anything fermented, they've got everything that you want to do. So it's weird. They've got a bunch of little stuff. So what have they done? They've hung metal grids on the side of their and they've listed, instead of having it on a flat table, in other words, they've done it vertically. And this is welcoming in people. They've got a chair here. So in the heat, they can kind of welcome people in. Customers can take a seat, and then they can explain how to ferment, how to do this, how do you, how to make kimchi, how to, and I like this. I thought this was really nice. They've got a nice banner, but they created this welcoming space. Again, it's having that blank space, to actually welcome people in and tell them about your product. And this is I don't take many crafts, probably like 4 crafts a day in the market. This is So Silly. That's the name of the business, So Silly. It's a mother and daughter. Daughter lives way on the west side. Mother lives way on the east side up near Estacada, and they meet at the market and have their special time together, and they sew, she sews, they bring them together and they display. But they're telling their story because they've got obviously stuff hanging everywhere, but they've done these cute flags. And the blue, it kind of shades everything, I get that, but it's a little bit dark inside there. But at least with these flags, people look for the flags and know where they are. So it's differentiating themselves from any other vendor. And that's it. There's our market. And I just thought I'd leave you with that idea, which I thought was kind of interesting. But I would like to say that even if you've been a vendor for a year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, occasionally step out of your booth, like walk 20 feet away and look at it. And what is it telling you? Just be a customer. So I think we get so kind of rote and we're trying to do stuff the same every time, but maybe you can mix it up. Maybe you can make it better. Maybe you can put some height. Maybe you can change a tablecloth color because it's not quite right with the product that you're selling. Look at it a little critically. Not every market day, but maybe 2 or 3 times in a season, just look at your booth and say, am I doing the best thing that I can do here? What does it look like? And what was the other thing I was going to say here? Yeah, social media, huge. Got to say that. And then also recipes. As I said earlier, people just have lost the art of cooking. A lot of them have. And anything you can do to make it easy for them. You know, have some recipes up your sleeve, either verbally or printed out or something, or on your website, or, you know, just, or even in the bag, you know, a salsa mix, you know, peppers, onions, garlic, go home and make this, and here's the recipe. Just think of different ways to be a little bit more full service to people. So I think, yeah.
Where is it in Morgancy?
It's up on the hill. It's actually in sort of a light industrial area. It's a crazy place to have a market, but it's a giant parking lot. So we can, you know, expand and contract and have plenty of parking for
Like
customers.
Hilltop or?
Do you know where Safeway is? It's up on the hill. There's 3 levels to Oregon City. There's the river area, then there's the middle area, right up on the hill.
It's like, I mean,
Beaver
Oregon
Creek.
City's mine. Yeah, yeah.